Welcome. In the last session, I started discussing the characteristic features of living organisms. So, in this session, I'm going to discuss a few more characters of living organisms, and then we'll see about diversity in the living world. Right. So, here, let's see. The next characteristic feature of living organisms is ability to sense environment. So ability to sense environment. So here, right from prokaryotic organisms, so right from the prokaryotic organisms to most complex eukaryotic organisms. So most complex eukaryotic organisms. So all these organisms have ability to sense environment, ability to sense environment. Okay, right. And of course, in case of complex eukaryotic organisms, like in case of human beings, we detect these stimuli with the help of sense organs. So we have sense organs, but in the lower group of organisms, there are no sense organs. Even though there are no sense organs, these group of organisms are capable of responding to various stimuli, so various environmental stimuli. And these environmental stimuli can be physical, right, chemical, and even biological, right. So these environmental stimuli will be detected in our case with the help of sense organs, and in the lower group of organisms, say suppose in case of amoeba, even though it doesn't have any sense organs, it is capable of detecting almost all different kinds of right stimuli, right. So that may be physical, that may be chemical, and even it can be biological. So all those environmental stimuli will be detected by these prokaryotes to most complex eukaryotic organisms. Coming to plants, in case of plants, so these plants are capable of detecting external stimuli. So there are a lot of external stimuli. So these external stimuli are detected by these plants, of course, like they detect water, temperature. So they respond to the water, they respond to temperature, they respond to light, they respond to other organisms, biological. Okay, so that's an biological stimuli, respond to other organisms, and even they respond to pollutants. So they respond to pollutants. Okay, right. So this water, temperature, light are in fact physical. Okay, and the pollutants may include some kind of chemical substances. To them also they respond. So that is a chemical stimuli, and other organisms the biological stimuli. So to all these physical, chemical, biological, the plants also they respond, okay, to those external environmental factors, right. So with this we understand that all from prokaryotes to the eukaryotes, they have the ability to sense environment here. Okay, then coming to photoperiod. So coming to photoperiod, so in case of photoperiod, right, organisms like in case of seasonal breeders, okay, they respond to this photoperiod, right. Seasonal breeders respond to this photoperiod. So we know the photoperiod is the length of the day. Photoperiod is length of the day. right? So this will be from sunrise to sunset. So it will be from sunrise to sunset. Okay, so that's what we call photo period, and this photo period will vary depending on seasons. We know that in summers we have longer, okay, day lengths, whereas in case of winter there will be shorter days. Okay, so summers longer days and winter shorter days, so depending on the seasons. And most of these plants and animals will respond to these photo periods. Okay, so animals and plants respond to photo periods, right? So already we have understood that there are certain kind of plants who will produce flowers only in particular period of time, and there are certain animals who will lay eggs or produce young ones only in particular. So some are adapted for long days, and some are adapted for short days, and some don't have any effect of the day length, so they are day neutral. So depending on that, okay, we have seen the different types of seasonal breeders. Okay, so this is the photo period to which the animals and plants uh, give response. So with this we understand that consciousness. So okay, so the consciousness is defining property of living organisms. So in the last class we have seen it is the metabolism uh, that is defining property of living organisms, and now we understand that even consciousness, so there is no non-living object that shows this consciousness. Okay, only the living organisms will be showing consciousness. So consciousness is the defining property of living organisms. Now the question comes, there are certain persons, okay, who get into, so they have gone into coma condition. Okay, so the person is not, okay, self-conscious at all. Okay, so here whether this person who is brain dead, so whether this person who is brain dead, okay, will not be showing any self, okay, consciousness. So the person will not show any, okay, self consciousness. So this person who is not showing any self consciousness, living or dead, if you ask the question, then uh, definitely I will be saying living. So I told you that only the living organisms will show this consciousness. Okay, uh, right, and that is ability to sense environment. So at that moment, so he is not aware of what is happening around him, right? Then even though inside his body the living, that is metabolic activities is going on, so his heart, lung and all, they are functioning normally, except that he is not aware of around what is going on. Okay, so in that case a person who is in coma is a living one, not a non-living one. Okay, so he shows all other properties of living except that consciousness or ability to sense environment. Okay, so self-consciousness, even though is not present. So here, that's why, so we say that consciousness is the defining property of living organisms. So as I said, in case of metabolic activities or metabolism is a defining property. So these two will be taking the defining property of living organisms. Next, we'll see about diversity in the living world. So the next one, diversity in the living world. Okay, so we know that the life that is present on this planet Earth, we know that life is only present on this planet Earth. Whether the life is existing on other planets, that we do not know, and we are still searching for it. Okay, and whatever that life that is present on the Earth is evolved on the Earth only. Okay, so there is no special creation in which we believe. And the first life forms that evolved, okay, so in course of time they got diversified and resulted in the formation of millions and millions of species. So for the scientists, the question is that how many of these species are present on this planet Earth. So many scientists try to find out, okay, right, at least the approximate values of a species. So how many species of organisms we discovered, and how many of the species yet to be discovered. Okay, so this is a big question in the scientific community, right? So let's see about that. Okay, diversity in the living world. So here I simply use one word for this, is the biodiversity. So the biodiversity is actually a short name for biological diversity. Is a short name for biological diversity. So in which I have taken these first three letters and made the word biodiversity. So that's what, how many species are present on this planet Earth. So that is the question here. Okay, so now according to right scientists, the number of species that are known and described. So according to right, so scientists, so the number of species and okay, whatever that so far discovered and described, so they are ranging from 1.7, okay, so ranging from 1.7 to 1.8 million species. So 1.7 to 1.8 million species are discovered and described, right? But how many species are present on this planet Earth? So some scientists, they have estimated that species, so the total number of species may be around 20 to 50 million. So there are around 20 to 50 million. Okay, but according to a scientist, Robert May, so he estimated the total number of species on this planet is around 7 million. Is 7 million. Okay, so even if you round it off to 2 million, there are still 5 million species, okay, yet to be discovered, right? Okay, so here I'm rounding it off to 2 million. Even then we round it off to 2 million. So removing it from this 7 million, we have still 5 million species to be discovered. Now whatever that species we discovered, we need to give them a universal name. So we need to give them universal name, otherwise the local names could be confusing. So there are, okay, hundreds and thousands of languages around the world, and when the scientific people move from one place to another place, or they may when talk in their own languages, it will be quite difficult for to understand. So hence the naming these organisms and then classifying, then identifying, so it's very important. Okay, and classifying will help us to understand the relationships between all the living organisms on this planet. So we know already that these organisms which evolved first on the planet Earth, they started diversifying. So every species on this planet Earth is connected to one another. Okay, so now so all that part, so to identify, classify, and then giving names to these organisms will come under a branch of biology called taxonomy. comes under a branch of biology called taxonomy. Okay, so of course in this case, right from the Greek taxis, so we have of course this is also derived from the Greek. So here taxis, which means arrangement, and nomos means law. Right, so this is a branch of biology that will deal with the identification, classification, and nomenclature. Okay, right. So these are the three things that come under taxonomy: identification, classification, and nomenclature. So we will mainly discuss about the nomenclature, so which is naming organisms scientifically. So the naming the organism scientifically comes under the nomenclature. The term taxonomy was coined by A.P.D. Candle. So somewhere in 1813. Okay, so he is the person who coined the term taxonomy, and the father of taxonomy, is, okay, Carolus Linnaeus. So Linnaeus is the father of taxonomy, and Carolus Linnaeus also have given another term, right, called systematics. So he has given the term systematics is a term given by Carolus Linnaeus. Okay, so what actually is the meaning of systematics is a systematic arrangement of organisms. Okay, so that is also concerned with the taxonomy. So systematic arrangement of organisms, so that's of course the taxonomy is also the arrangement of living organisms in a particular order. And here I have already given the order in which, okay, we follow identifying these organisms and putting them in a particular place, okay, and then giving them name. So the first, okay, step in taxonomy is identification, then the second step is classification, and the third step is nomenclature. And Carolus Linnaeus also proposed a binomial nomenclature. So let's see about binomial nomenclature. So that is naming organisms scientifically with one generic and one specific epithet. So in binomial nomenclature, we will be having one generic name and one specific epithet. Okay, and this binomial nomenclature was proposed by Carolus Linnaeus. Okay, so this is a scientific names that is given to organisms, and these scientific names will be universal, that is throughout the world it will be the same, so there will be no difference, because in one language a cat may be called, okay, differently, and in another language the same cat will be called differently. So to avoid these confusions among the scientific community, so they started giving a particular, okay, scientific name that will be having a generic and a specific epithet. So for example, in case of Panthera leo, so in case of this Panthera leo, so here this is the, okay, first name, and that is a genus, and the second one will be the species. Okay, so this is the specific epithet and this is the generic name. So every living organism will have two names, so that is the reason so why it is called binomial nomenclature. Of course, after discussing this, I will also discuss about the trinomial nomenclature, so where they have even given a third name or included a third name. Okay, and that has become trinomial nomenclature. So we'll see that one once I finish with this binomial nomenclature. These scientific names are given basing on certain principles and criterion. So here, based on certain principles and okay criteria, so there are certain rules and regulations that one have to follow. Okay, so those are principles and criteria, and basing on that we will be giving scientific names to organisms. Like there is ICBN, so this one will carry the code that how to okay frame names for plants. So this is international code for botanical nomenclature. International code for botanical nomenclature. And then ICZN, so this stands for International Code of Geological Nomenclature. So here this ICBN is meant for right giving names to plants, and ICZN for animals, and like that there will be for bacterial nomenclature and will be for viral nomenclatures, and so different bodies will have some rules and regulations to give names to okay different groups of organisms. So in this case, ICBN is for plants and ICZN international code. So this code which will have some set of rules and regulations to give how to give the names to animals and plants. Now let us see certain rules. So those some of those rules and regulations while giving a scientific name, right? So while giving a scientific name, so the genus should be the first word, then followed by species. So we should not write species first and genus later. So always, okay, the genus should come first and then later followed by species. And the genus should start with the capital letter. Should start with the capital letter. And in case of species, it should start with the small letter. Should start with the small letter. Okay, so you can see here I have started already the genus with the okay capital P, and in this case a small l, right? And here usually the genus is a noun, whereas the species is adjective. Okay, so the genus is a noun and usually will take the species as adjective. Of course, there are so many rules and regulations, so it's a very a book that consists of so many rules and regulations. It's a very big book from which we have taken only a few principles or few points, and these scientific names are derived from Latin or Latinized. So if they are derived from in another language, they should be converted into Latin. So they are derived from either Latin, or if not from some other language, then those have to be Latinized. And then okay, so while okay printing the scientific name, so while printing the scientific name, it should be in italics. It should be in italics. And if someone happen to write with the hand, so it is handwritten. So if it is handwritten, compulsory the genus and species should be underlined, not okay together. So underlining all together, this is wrong. Okay, so we should not underline like this. Compulsory there must be right separation. So genus should be underlined, okay, and the species should be underlined with two different lines, not with only one line. So if underlining with one line will be wrong, okay, and this we need to follow only when we write, okay, by hand. So if you are printing it, you have to put them in italics. So here while printing it comes something like this, okay, so Panthera leo. So, and in that case, if you have printed it, there is no need to underline. So no need to underline. So just put them in italics while printing. Only this underline is when we write with hand. And next, the scientific name can be followed by the name of the scientist who first gave this in abbreviated form. Okay, so this Panthera leo, right, Lin. So here this stands for Linnaeus. Okay, so the Lin stands for Linnaeus. So he is the first person to give this name. So hence, after the scientific name, okay, the author's name in an abbreviated form can be written. So you may find in some cases the scientific names which will be followed by this uh, the person who gave that name for the first time. Right, so with this, I will end today's session. We will see in the next session the taxonomic categories.